Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese, so you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Ayami.
And the topic of the day is banana. This is a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time now. I've eaten many fruits within my life, and I feel like the banana isn't getting quite the appreciation that it deserves. People talk about the apple. People talk about pears. But for many reasons, I want to say that the banana is the best fruit, and I think that needs to be acknowledged more, as I currently don't think it's currently being seen in the way that I think it should be. So,
じゃあみんなはどうバナナを捉えてると思う？
Well, it's not that I don't think people are appreciating a banana. I just think that the banana needs to be appreciated more. And I have a set of reasons why.
Okay.
So when you're assessing the quality of a fruit, a lot of people think about maybe just the taste. Maybe they have like a strawberry and they're like, oh, that tastes really good. But what they're failing to consider is the whole spectrum of things related to a fruit. It's not just the taste, it's the whole experience. So this is why I've categorized or made a few different categories that I want to go into and discuss why the banana is at the top of the food, or specifically fruit, let's say tier list. The first one.
Tier list はどういう意味？
Tier list is like, it's the best, it's like a fighting game term sort of, but it basically means it's the top of the top.
バナナはフルーツの王様と。
Yeah. So
理由ね、はいはい。
my first reason is for its ease of consumption. So unlike, let's think even an apple. I mean, you can't eat an apple skinless, but some people like peeling them, and then you need a knife, and you want to cut it up into small pieces. An orange, you unless you have like what are they called, mandarin, you basically need a knife. Or like a kiwi you also need a knife, and that's kind of a pain. Or like a coconut, and a watermelon, all these things you need tools to actually open up and consume. Banana, that's not the case.
確かに。
You can just
確かに。
yeah.
確
You
か
can
に
just
ね。
open it up with your
どこ
hands.
でもね。
And it's basically built having like a tab that you can just pull on it, and then you're good.
待って、
So
ここでちょっと意義ありだわ。
Why is that?
なんでかっていうと、私はリンゴめちゃめちゃ好きな人なのね。で、リンゴは皮を洗ってそのまま丸かじりするタイプなの。だからその点に関しては別に皮むかないし、切ったりもしないから。
But do you have to wash the apple? That's what I'm asking. Do you wash?
確かにそう。スーパーで売られてる時にみんな触るから、ちょっと汚いじゃん。さすがに汚いから洗うよ。
Okay, so do you have to water or wash your banana though? Before you eat it.
でもそれはさ、バナナは皮を食べないからじゃん。皮を食べないから洗う。
Exactly. and that's what I'm saying. But it's also really easy to take off the skin. And so that's kind of my point. And that's just number one.
Okay,
and the fact it fits perfectly into your head. The other thing is they're strong. So because they have the skin, or I guess their peel around them, it's actually super easy to carry them and transport without them. I mean, they can get bruised, but generally speaking, like a banana, you can carry inside your lunch pail, and you're not going to have that bad of a day, assuming it's not already overripened.
それもあれだよ。もうちょっと待って。めちゃめちゃ意義になっちゃうわ。なんか性格悪い人みたいになっちゃうわ。
Well, do you have problems carrying your bananas?
ね、まずバナナ結構ね、学校とかに持って何度かトライしたんだよ。その学校に持ってったりね。で、その、教科書一緒に入れるじゃん、バッグの中に。で、多分私の性格っていうかなっていうの、ガサツさっていうのなんだけど、多分バッグの扱い方が悪いのかわかんないけど、その教科書の重さとかなんかの圧力かなんかで バナナがすごい圧迫されて、中でぐじゅぐじゅなんだよね。で、その漏れ出た液がさ、バッグの中にさ、溢れてるわけよ。だから、
doesn't that same thing happen? Doesn't that same thing happen to like apples and pears if you throw them in your bag though?
いやでも、リンゴは、まあ、リンゴを持ってったことはね、まあ2、3回あるんだけど、リンゴの方が硬いから、そうにはならなかった。ね。うん。
Well, if your apples are really hard, those just sound like underripe in the apples. Like I feel like you want to be eating good apples.
いや、バナナの方が柔らかい。
And if you want to have, like, you can get early, like, what's it called, underripened bananas, and then they're very hard.
多分ね、日本ね、日本だとあんまり青いバナナを売ってるのあんまスーパーで見ないかもしれない。それが結構違うかも。
So there's some debate over this topic. I'm going to move on to my other categories, and we'll see. This one I think is pretty clear, which is the ease of inspection, how easy it is to tell whether you have a good banana. And that's not the case with all fruits. Pears specifically, like, you can obviously see if they're bruised or not, but like a lot of times you'll have what looks like a good pear and then it just tastes terrible. I think bananas are very consistent in their taste.
確かに
They're like, you know what you're
腐っ
getting.
た感はないしね。
Yeah. They don't have the same peak taste like your like strawberry or watermelon in the summer, but they're always reliable.
確かに季節性はないのはすごいわかる。もう春夏秋冬全部のシーズンで売ってるわスーパーで。
Yeah. And then the other things about bananas, they can be eaten in pretty much any type of dish. So sweet and like savory, any in between, from like ice cream, like banana ice cream sundaes. They can be eaten and cooked when they're raw or like underripened or overripened into savory dishes. This is not this. I'm trying to think of many fruits that can do this. Apples, sort of, with like maybe wine, but like for the most part, I feel like fruits are either eaten by their own or always eaten in something sweet. But bananas can be like eaten with meat, like straight up. Especially if we count plantains into this banana conversation.
Plantain はバナナの種類だけどちょっと違うんだよ。なんか違うどんな
Yeah, but even a normal banana can be. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing to keep in mind is that a banana is a very important part of smoothies or many smoothies, and that gives it
savory じゃないじゃん。
No, but that's just one example. It can also be, and it also can be eaten by itself. So, like there's no bad way to eat a banana, and at any point that you have a banana, you can use it for something, whether it's like banana bread, or like that's what happens when you're overripe. Yeah, overripened bananas used for banana bread. Yeah, so that's great. The other thing is bananas are inexpensive. A lot of fruits like pomegranates and other stuff kind of have like that rich feeling, like you have to be loaded to just enjoy your fruit. But bananas are a fruit of the common man.
それは人によるよ。人による。
Well, I mean, I'm just saying there are a lot of bananas in Africa. I feel like Africa's not that wealthy, so.
めちゃめちゃそれは人によるけどさ、まあ、はいはい。
Okay. Next, I think bananas. I mean, a fairly decent like shelf life as long as you're like not putting it in an extremely hot environment. As in, like you can get bananas and expect them to last maybe like I'd say like a week, which is better than some fruit like kiwi. Or like that, you don't need to refrigerate a banana.
逆にそうバナナは聞いたっていうか実際体験したし聞いた話なんだけど冷蔵庫入れるとね逆に早くダメになっちゃうから
Yeah,
常温
I haven't actually tried that just because it's so convenient not to deal with that. And my next point, they're actually good for you. Most fruits are, realistically speaking, not that, like watermelons, kiwis. They're all taste good, but they're kind of like sugar highs.
確かにね。
Banana has potassium.
うん。
I'm not sure what else it has, but
まあビタミンとかあるだろうね。そうね。
yeah.
確かに
And
そうね。
yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's that sugary. At least I don't feel like that is. I'm not gonna look that up.
でも甘いやつ甘いよ。なんかね、結構日本人はフルーツに甘みを求めてるから、その完熟した甘めのバナナが好きとかね、結構そういう人多いし、なんか品種でも完熟王とかなんか甘みを特化したバナナがね、ほとんどなのかな気がする。
Well, sometimes with what Japanese people consider sweet, I feel like I don't consider, at least as an American, where everything is ridiculously sweet. I don't really consider what they
マジ
consider
で
sweet
毒々
sweet.
しいぐらいもうなんか砂糖どんだけ入れてんだろうぐらいにね。
Yeah. So with that, I'm just gonna say they're relatively healthy.
確かにね。
Two more points. One, or my second to last point, they're a staple in comedy, at least American comedy. At least they were, like where you could throw, and Mario Kart, where you can throw a banana and somebody can fall on the banana, and it's always a classic joke.
それは
Very important.
なんかいつも思うんだけどさ、バナナの皮あってさ、まず一つね、滑るのかどうかっていうのと、あと絶対バナナあったらさ、それさ、そこの上を歩くんじゃなくてさ、絶対避けて通るよね。
No, well, it's funny because I actually looked into this was a whole YouTube deep dive I had, but that actually happened. Like there was, from what I understand, bananas were so popular when they came into the U.S. And people were just littering them, and then you actually had people getting injured falling on bananas, and that's where the whole idea of people falling bananas came from. So it wasn't like something made up. People actually fell on bananas.
実話からそのなんていうの、そのジョークが生まれたってこと？
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just a joke.
どんだけバナナが落ちてたんだよね。もうすごいね、それは。
And let me see. My last point is that, well, I guess this is kind of related. So the other comedic value bananas have, they always have that weird sexual innuendo type thing going on where you can like eat a whole banana, like deep throat a banana. And I feel like that's always something. You don't have that with all fruits. It's something to be appreciated.
それね、no comment にしとこう。
Okay, and then the last one is I feel like if you had to say that different fruits had different levels of sex appeal, I feel like the banana would be there, mainly because of the previous point. I feel like it's a fairly attractive fruit.
まあ、そうだね。
And with that closes my I'm hoping that I've convinced many of you listeners out there that you should pick up a banana and appreciate it, because many of the fruits don't have what banana does, and especially not with the same package. I'm not looking for people saying, well, this fruit tastes really good in summer. I want the whole experience. I don't want to deal with like bad watermelons or bad apples. Like a banana is solid all the time.
ね、確かに安定したもう一面って感じよね、フルーツ界の一面。
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that that's a takeaway you guys can have.
決してバナナ会社の回し物ではありませんと。ね。ただ、個人の意見としてバナナを全面的に押し出していこうというね。はいはい。なるほど、なるほど。Okay, so since this is our first Lazy Fluency podcast, so I thought it would be good to introduce ourselves a little bit. So let's start. So I'm Ayami, and I live in Japan, and I really like studying English. So I thought it would be great to make this podcast with Joey. And tell me about yourself, Joey.
アメリカだと結構田舎の方だとこういう日本語を使う機会あまりなかったからもちろんこういうなんか自分の母語というんですかね、を使う機会を なんていうか、そういう機会を作るためにこういうポッドキャストを作ろうと思ってた。でも同時に、お客さんのなんか私たちが言語を勉強しようとしていることを理解できるために、このなんていうか、日本語から英語に、英語から日本語にのスタイルをやっていこうと思ってたんだ。
Yeah. So like this is a place for audience and us to practice languages. So we are all learners. So yeah, we constantly learn things.
で、もちろん間違いをすることもたくさんあるかもしれないから、
As you can see,
ご理解ください。
Yeah, we're not perfect at all. Like, we're not. So, yeah.
もちろん日本語で話すのが好きからこういうなんていうか交代的なスタイルやっていこうと思ってたんだけど、同時にこういう日本語となんか英語のポッドキャストをあまり見つけることはできないから、作ろうかなと思ってたんだ。それともちろんなんかほとんどの人が他の言語を学んでるときに YouTube だとかだったらそういう編集されてる動画ばっかりアップロードしてるから、本当にどのぐらいなんかある言語をしてるかってことがちょっと曖昧になっちゃうから、こういうもっと自然な会話でポッドキャストとして視聴者さんが私たちのなんていうか言語力じゃないんだけど
reality
親しみを感じる
現
実的に
Go with the flow vibe
言語を学ぶことはどういうことって分かってくるんじゃないかと。
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that was one of our reasons to start this podcast, right?
で、まあそういうなんかこれが初めてだからどういうふうにこの交代的なスタイルを捉えたかってことを後で言うんだけど、Eメールでそういう意見とかをくれることをなんていうか感謝しています。
Please leave us some comments. Yeah. Is that how you say it?
いや。コメントをください。
Yeah.
で、もちろんこういうポッドキャストは交代的だから、そういう言語に関しては日本の視聴者とアメリカの視聴者も両方いると思うから、そういうコミュニティを作りたいと思ってる。バイリンガルなコミュニティ。
Bilingual community. Yeah, sounds fun.
そう。
agree.
両方の言語、なんていうか、日本語と英語のスタイルでやりたいと言ってたんだけど、なぜか両方の言語をやりたいかというと、私たちがお互いの言語が好きだから、ちょっと単純なことだけど、私の日本語に関する興味がアメリカ人にとってそんなに珍しくないことかもしれないんだけど、一応幼い時に津波というアメリカじゃないんだけど日本のアニメを放送された一応なんていうか番組みたいなチャンネルがあって、でそういうなんかいろんな日本の番組を見てきて、面白いと思ったから、なんかどんな人がこういうようなアニメを作ったかに気になって、それで時間が経つにつれば、これが日本のものだっていうことを気づいて、で、なんかそのアニメだけじゃなくて、
You didn't know it was from Japan? The anime?
そう。なんか見てたときに、なんかすごく下手な英語かスペイン語だったかはなんか覚えられないんだけど、そういう何でしたっけ、吹き笛
吹き替え
でしたっけ？吹き替え、
うん
吹き替えがあったから、それがなんかスタイルはアメリカのカーツーンとちょっと違うってこと分かってたんだけど、もっとなんか具体的になんかスタイルだけじゃなくて、これが他の国から来たってことがちょっと分からなかったから、それでなんかアニメの興味から他の文化につながって、でなんか日本語を大学で勉強して、日本語をもっと使いたいと思って、こういうポッドキャストを作ろうと思ってたんだ。で、あやみはどう？自分の英語に関する経験。
So for me, so I started learning English at middle school, like everyone else. And I didn't like English at first, like till, when was it? Second year in middle school? Is that right?
Second
year or grade in middle school.
Oh yeah, second middle school is 7th, 8th grade?
Grade.
日本で
Grade.
わかんない。
So should I use year or grade for middle school?
7th, 8th grade.
Grade, okay. So yeah, then so it's like 中学2年. Then so I had this chance to go to Australia for homestaying for 2 weeks. Then that was like a turning point for me. Like, so at that time I really didn't like know how to speak English. And then when I had to say goodbye to my host family, I couldn't say like my thank you message to them, and I felt this feeling of like, how do I say, I want to like, how do I say, express my feeling to them. And then I got so frustrated. Then I started to think that I want to speak English fluently. And then after that, I started taking online lessons, like 25 minutes a day. And my teachers were not native speakers. So that was like a good experience for me to listen to non-native speakers. I mean, like non-English native speakers. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a good experience. And but before I went to Australia, I was kind of into how do I say, like Western music, like songs in English, like One Direction, like that kind of thing, like all girls are interested in. So yeah, like I was
boy
into
band.
Sorry?
Boy band という
So boy band, yeah. So then I wanted to like, so at first I didn't know the like what lyrics meant, but yeah, I started to sing along, and I started wanting to know the words in those songs. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I got interested in English. So yeah. And yeah, right now I study, like not study, like I watch Netflix in English. So it's like free, it's kind of like a freestyle of like learning English. So yeah. That's my story.
それが私たちの言語に関する経験なんかこういうもちろんなんか私たちを知らないからこういうことをなんかあまり興味がない方もいらっしゃるかもしれないんだけど、一応なんかこういう背景、私たちの背景が分かるようにこういう部分を入れた方がいいかなと思ってた。
Yeah, right. We are just like normal people. Like you.
And we're back. Well, I guess I should say I'm back to speaking English. But for the last section of the podcast, we're going to do something. I guess it'll probably change every time we record an episode. Normally, this is where we might answer viewer questions and other things like that. But we might also have other things to talk about. Today, we'll be talking about, well, language rants, I guess, or qualms we have with learning languages.
申し立てっていうのかな？わかんない。
Yeah. And one of them, I mean, as you listeners who also are probably, hopefully either studying Japanese or English, probably have many complaints about, given that it's so difficult to study one or the other, assuming you're Japanese or American. And so I'm going to start with one of my biggest qualms. And I'm calling this qualm the Death of Tanaka. Tanaka is not a person I know, and nor do I know somebody who died. I'm calling the Death of Tanaka the death of simple Japanese names. I would say back in my day, but it's not really back in my day. It's back in every movie / when I look at books and see people's like old school books, see people's names, things were simple. You have Yamadas, you have Tanakas. You can read the name, you can see the kanji, you can understand what you're looking at. Now, especially every time I talk to a younger Japanese person, I feel like they're just making up kanji. They're just making up kanji and then making up readings for those kanji. Kanji that aren't used for anything, aren't even used for names. They're just like some old, extremely specific kanji that no native Japanese speaker knows. And you just kind of have to you don't even guess. You just don't know. And then so it turned into this weird thing where even a native speaker doesn't even have a place to start to understand who they're talking to.
これさ、
at least that's my take on it.
これは何？名字のこと言ってる？それとも名前のこと言ってる？
Specifically their last name, yeah. Mainly because that's what they introduce themselves by.
まあでもさ、
maybe people have weird first names. They probably have weird first names too. Actually, no, I guess, no, it'd be the ones that you name them because I'm assuming their last names would be the same. So I guess I'm really referring to people's first names. Actually, and last names, you know what? It just feels, I mean, and it hasn't just been my take on this. I've talked to some old Japanese people, and maybe this might be the boomer version of a Japanese person, but they've definitely told me that the parents nowadays just want to give everybody kira name, like special specific
first
names.
Name.
Yeah, first that'd be their first name. And I empathize with that. As kanji are already difficult enough, they do not need to make names even harder than they already are.
名字も難しくてさ、名前もさ、難しかったらもう何も読めんわってなるわな。
Yeah. And so that's why I'm proposing
申し立て
that
は
we have
もうね、
there
こ
are
れね
Japanese already has the joyo kanji, which are like the standard kanji that can only be used in government documents. And technically there is, I think, a list of kanji that can be used in names officially too.
確かに。
I think we bring that down and don't say kanjis you can use a name. That's too many combinations. You just make 100 names. Like if Korea can have like 3 last names and everybody's cool, I feel like we just cut you've cut all the available Japanese names down to 100. So you have you put Tanaka Yamada, and if you have one of those names that are not part of this 100, it seems a little harsh, but we have to kill you. That's what I'm thinking. And it seems a little extreme, but I think it's worth it to save me mental frustration. So yeah, that's kind of my proposed plan to how to solve this real issue here. And I want to, I guess, ask if other people are also feeling the same kind of pain that I do every time I talk to somebody and they show me a name that's not part of Joyo kanji, and it's also not part of any word that's ever been used in any sort of literary sense. It's just kind of a kanji that is only used for names, and they wouldn't even know how to write it if there wasn't their own name. And most other native speakers they go to don't even have a guess to know how to read it.
まあね、
Yeah, so this...
それはなんていうの last name 名字だったらさ結構っていうかさもうなんていうの昔から伝わってきてるからさどうしようもないじゃん。でそれにその歴史があるからさ
everything has history. Everything has history.
そうそうだけどさfirst name 名前の方下の名前の方をさまあ親がつけるわけだからさそれはまあ確かになんていうのキラキラネーム化してってるよねねだって昔なんかなんとか女だったらなんとか子とかなんとかみとかでやったけど今で男だったらなんとか太郎とかねそのまあ男らしい名前女らしい名前っていうのがあったけど今はね読めないよね。
I mean, yeah, this all started just because there's apparently Japanese people are called Amy now, which I don't understand. Amy, which to me just seems like they just like the English or Western name Amy, and now they're deciding to force it in Japanese, but they can't just use katakana because they have to make it Japanese, so they choose extremely obscure kanji that nobody can read, or maybe some people can read but can't tell me the definition of, and that brings me extreme pain.
なんか高校、まあ、中学とかでエマっていう子がいてよエマ・ワトソンとかのエマねそれで漢字でなんていうの
This is another problem.
笑うにまは忘れたけどエマちゃんって言ってそうめっちゃね日本っぽくはないって言えばいいのかなまあでもそれだけなんていうの日本がグローバル化してるって言えばいいのかなそのポジティブに言えばね
No. It'd be positive if they use katakana, but they still want to force it to be Japanese. They want to force it to seem Japanese by putting kanji. And that's where I have a problem. I'm totally fine with them naming somebody Emma, but not if they use kanji. Because then, like, that's literally the whole point of katakana. That's why katakana exists. It is there to tell you, hey, this is a foreign...
じゃあもしなんだまあ海外にあるような名前を使いたいときはカタカナで書けと漢字で書くなと
Exactly. Yes, that is all I'm asking. I mean, it's either I'm asking for that, or I'm asking for my previous dictator rule, where we're gonna have to kill off a significant part of the population if they don't change their name. So
yeah.
I'll leave that decision to the Japanese citizens. I hope you make the right choice. And what is your problem of the day regarding English?
なんかねずっと前からっていうかもう英語を学習し始めた時からもうずっとなんだけどさまず日本語に数を数える時にあとかさ、まあ、複数形プルローとかさあとザとか入れないからさまずそこだよねそこでまああとなんだ母音から始まる言葉の前はさあんになったりとかさなんて変えないといけないのあとそもそもだって日本語はさ数を数えるときにさ、まあ、例えば一匹の羊だったら一匹の羊って言えばいいけどさ英語だとさone sheep でも違うわここで問題だまずシープはさシープスじゃなくてシープじゃん複数形ないよね
Yeah
そこも問題なんだよ。
Three sheep? Yeah, 3 sheep, 4 sheep, 5 sheep.
そう。なんでかっていうと、そう、それも、なんだ、申し立てなんだけど、なんでさ、そうやってさ、変えるのあと、フィッシュもさ、fishies じゃなくて、フィッシュじゃん。一匹であろうが、二匹であろうが。
And then, well, if they're in a group, you call them a school of fish, actually.
そう。ね、なって、なんか、まあ、魚はさ、まあ、一匹で行動する魚いないって言われればまあ納得、まあできないけどできるっちゃできるけどさ羊ってさ羊は群れで生活するからさなんかシープの 複数形がないとかっていう説明されたんだけどさ。いや、一匹でいる
I
羊いるでし
don't
ょ。
know the logic behind it. I just know that it sounds right and sometimes it sounds wrong. But my rebuttal to this is that I think having a like one version of a word for singular and another for plural is way better than having like a different way to count and a different sequence of counting for almost everything with the hiki and piki,
それ
satsu,
は
pon.
単位が、
Like I,
単位が多い
with
のは
English,
認める。
yeah, it's like the school of fish thing, except for it changes depending on amount. It'd be like it'd be like one fish is one skull, then two fish is like two schools, and no two school, and then three is like two scales. So it's like you have to remember that, except and then realize that this applies to every object.
4匹
And this is fine for most things that aren't alive because you can just use hitotsu futatsu.
確かに
But it gets annoying when things are living and then you just can't call them a thing. And the thing is, I don't really care about making him feel bad for me calling him a thing. I just want to explain that I'm talking about 5 things. But now I can't even I'm talking about 5 things because of the fact that I can't remember the specific counter that's supposed to go along with the thing. And
2
so
人、2人いたって言いたくてもね、2個いるとか、なんて言えばいいんだろうね、その、
Yeah.
そのロボットが生き物と考えるか考えないとかね。
Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't care. I don't like factoring in the sentience of my objects. Granted, you have to do that same thing in English as well. But when I'm not even able to describe what I'm talking about because I'm so confused as to which counter to use, it makes me very sad. very sad. Very sad, and I also come off as very dumb because everything will be going smooth, and then it's like, oh, is this portrait flat enough to be called mai, or is it thick? So maybe it's like satsu at this point, and then these really arbitrary thing. I'm like, maybe the edges of the book are round, and maybe the book is like round and small enough to sometimes. Maybe it could be like a pon. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seems weird that an object, if you made a book that was cylindrical, you would no longer use satsu, or would you use satsu? I don't know. These are the questions I need answers to.
確かにね。
And even if it is a book, for some reason, like when it turns to a volume, why do we need to make the distinction between a volume and a book with kan? Like, those are so similar that I don't feel like we need a different counter for that.
確かにね。確かにそれは分からなくもない。なんかボリュームを重視するよね。数える時の単位で。
Yeah. Exactly. So this is another thing. I feel like the government just needs to step in, be like, we clearly messed up somewhere along the way here. You just create another version of hitotsu futatsu, but for living things, sort of like hitori futari, but you can't use that for like animals. You just make another one. We'll go like
一人の猫。
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, good point. We'll just use hitori futari, but extend it to all living things. There you go.
一人の犬。
There we go. And that is the fix that we all need. It'll save me time and mental effort. And I'm sure in corner case scenarios, native speakers also are like, is this cylindrical enough to be this counter? Or maybe it's a little flat. Like, these are weird questions to be asking when you just want to say there are 5 something.
ね、確かに。あと、たまにさ、すごい難しい数え方のものとかあるんだよ。なんか日本人でもなんか、ほとんどの人が間違えるとかね。そういうのもあるからね。こうでいいじゃん。ね。
So this is my secondary petition to the Japanese government. I know that the coronavirus is a problem and you're dealing with Omicron, but if we could really push in some legislation to just fix this thing,
For just,
I know languages technically don't evolve like this way, but a little dictatorship can make everything work.
日本語学習者のためになんとかしてくれ
Yeah, exactly.
するわ
Yes,
けないでしょ。
that is what I'm playing for. I hope you can understand.
アンダースタンドしないわ。
And with that complaint and the sound of that bell, that means that we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off. じゃあね。
じゃあね。
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.